Hey guys, welcome back to the Friday Vlog where we discuss activity that goes on here with the BuzWeaver channel. That includes things like current events, headlines that are in the news, social media, technology, and items of interest that come up during the week that allow us to have a little bit of a dialogue. It allows us to go through some of the material that came up during the week that I felt was kind of interesting and worthy of bringing to your guys' attention. If this is your first time here to the channel, I'd like to welcome you guys here. Along with the frequent viewers who partake in watching the videos, I would encourage both of you guys now to click on that watermark down there in the bottom right hand corner to subscribe. And I'd like to give a big thanks to all of those who watch me on BitChute. If you guys aren't familiar, BitChute is an alternative video hosting site where many YouTubers are now just kind of placing their additional material on that particular platform as well. And I will leave a link for that down in the publish section below. In gaming news this week, a lot going on with Infinity Ward, the creators of Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and I like that they are really responding quite proactively to all the community feedback. So I'm very encouraged by what I'm seeing, and I'm hoping that they will implement some of the changes that are discussed. And if you want to know what those details are, I have created a video for you. You can click on that link right up here in the top right hand corner to check it out. And I'm looking forward to some of the changes that they will be implementing. So be sure you check that out. In an effort to bring you guys creative, interesting, and detailed stories each week on the Friday Vlog, of course, I go across all mainstream media, social media, journalists, and independent commentary to bring you guys some of the interesting stories that came up during the week that are worth mentioning that maybe you might not have seen in the mainstream or in other areas, but they were at least moments in time, snapshots to stop and reflect on for a moment. And this one in particular actually comes from CNN. Now, there aren't many detractors who typically post about some of the commentary that's here on the channel because I use a lot of the mainstream media links and sources to kind of illustrate that I am watching across all of them and not in some echo chamber of conservative news, as that seems to be a very interesting rebuttal and argument that people make that I am or have used echo chamber links, but that's only because that particular story pertained to it. But the vast majority of links here are usually going to be coming from mainstream media. That is oftentimes quite intentional. But nonetheless, out of CNN, we learned that a gentleman down in the state of Florida, apparently two men broke into his home, accosted and assaulted him as well as one of their children. They were demanding money at gunpoint. They had sidearm firearm pistols with them. And to the rescue, the 8-month pregnant wife who had an AR-15, a semi-automatic rifle that is oftentimes demonized and portrayed as being an instrument of evil by the very mainstream media that this article was being published on, as well as gun control activists. However, what people don't realize is these types of activities are often saved, or people are saved, by having a firearm each and every day. However, the media does not cover this. It is not part of their typical narrative. If they did, then maybe there would be a bit of a difference, maybe a different attitude, maybe a different perception about firearms in general. But the idea here in the grander scheme of it, for those who are firearm literate, of course, the AR-15 is going to give you a tactical advantage over these individuals that have pistols, and that's the purpose. When you are protecting your home, when you are protecting your family, when you are protecting yourself, you want that tactical advantage. Because in the real world, we don't have Hollywood and TV to make us out as expert marksmen to hit exactly where we want to hit with the fewest amount of ammunition possible. So the idea here is that this woman was able to defend her husband and her children by having a firearm that gave her a tactical advantage. And of course, she apparently knew how to use it with levels of competence because of course she wanted to avoid harming her children and or her husband in the process. And apparently she managed to hit one or both, and at least one of them later died. They found him later outside of the scene. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, although you do not hear about these types of stories often, Firearms are not the demon evil children that the media tries to make them out to be, because in our country we have the wonderful, amazing, and responsible freedom of the Second Amendment, or the Constitution of the Second Amendment, that allow us to own and have firearms for this very reason. People should not be shamed. People should not feel guilty about being able to protect their homes with the best firearms available. If you guys want to check out that story, I will leave a link for you down in the published section below. As we have discussed, as we cover quite often here on the BuzWeaver channel, there is an information war that is taking place right now. And as we have discussed and covered, I have shown you guys graphs, metrics, telemetries, and all sorts of articles showing you that the smaller voices out there on the internet that are trying to create this sense of disruption, this sense of peril, this sense of tumult within the political community, as you might know them, as I refer to them as the Trump detractors, as well as Democrat operatives. But nonetheless, I wanted to illustrate something to you. Now, I didn't cover this in previous videos, but Twitter has decided that they are no longer going to run any political ads as it pertains to the 2020 election. And here's the thing. The Democrats and the progressives got very excited about this because they felt like, okay, now President Trump and other conservatives can't put their ads on Twitter. But what they don't realize when they go after these sorts of policies and procedures is they too are excluded, because the topic is that, or the policy is that, no political ads can be run there. And they are under the impression that these sorts of things don't apply to them. And that's the problem, because they alienate themselves and they exclude themselves, because, as we've mentioned here before, liberals do not hold themselves to the same standards they expect from everyone else. And not only that, it is even more of a dagger in the back to the progressives and the left, because political statements or political ads also pertains to climate change and movements and associations and special interests and any of those organizations where these echo chamber individuals socialize and interact with each other. So, interestingly enough, President Trump responded to this in a quite amusing and typical Trump troll way by posting 4 dots on his Twitter and hitting enter. And just from that innocuous, simple tweet, thousands of people responded to it, liked it, and just interacted with it, right? The click-through rate was in the millions, right? So, as we discussed, I will show you here on the screen. To give you an idea of President Trump's presence on social media, you can see that from follows, likes, subscribes, and interactivity, he has 46.9 million followers and people that interact with his content. And then you look at Joe Biden with 2.6, Bernie Sanders with 1.9, and that's a great deal of progressives and others within Bernie Sanders, or at least within the socialist mindset. And then you have Elizabeth Warren, who's going to be capturing a lot of that very progressive mindset within the Democrat Party. And then Tulsi Gabbard, who probably appeals to a lot of the moderates. But as we have discussed here, Tulsi Gabbard has had her own difficulties with the tech giants, and that when she was trending after one of the debates, she and her team had purchased advertising and other information to be posted on Google, and so that her name would appear higher on the SEO, or search engine optimization. And they apparently suspended the transaction for up to 6 hours, as they said that they were looking into the payment processors, which was complete nonsense, because it's coming from an official political campaign. Why in the world are you going to suggest that, oh yeah, we had to check the payment processors to make sure everything was good to go, and so forth and so on, and that she was compliant and we were compliant? It's complete nonsense. They don't do that to any of the other candidates at all. They run ads all the time. But nonetheless, so now you can see the presence that President Trump has. And I want to emphasize here, of course, as we have covered, is that a lot of the Trump detractors, a lot of the progressives, and these smaller voices who are best described malcontents, angry that President Trump won the election, are going to be doing everything they can to ensure that the president doesn't win in 2020, which is why the Democrats have gone into this impeachment inquiry, dog and pony show reality TV ideology and philosophy that they have adopted for their program, because for them, their mantra is orange man bad. And that's all they have. They're not generating any enthusiasm. As you saw in that illustration from just the popularity mindset that the progressives and left always like to go with, you can see that clearly it's President Trump. When President Trump has his rallies, it is like rock star status when people go and see him. That's within the venue that he's in, as well as the overflow. The other day, it was quite amusing. I don't know if you saw this or not, but there was like a tight video shot of Joe Biden apparently talking to or looking at a large screen or something that he was looking at, not knowing apparently where the crowd was, but also to keep the shot tight so that people couldn't see how few people were there to see him. And there just isn't any enthusiasm within the Democratic Party, right? As we talked about, why is Hillary Clinton out promoting one of her books and talking about President Trump? Why is it that there's this kind of a sensation and talk, very low talk about Michelle Obama even entering the race? It's because they don't have a winning horse. They don't have anybody who anyone is excited about in the Democratic Party, and they're having all kinds of issues, so they have to resort to this salted earth type method where they just have to destroy everything for everyone, because of course they want everything to go bad, if for no other reason than to harm Trump. But in the process, as we talked about on Twitter, in the process of being destructive and into this chaos, they harm themselves as well, and they just don't see it because they have Trump derangement syndrome. But nonetheless, guys, before I go off on a rant, I will leave a link to that particular article down in the published section below. All right, guys, so thankfully I had the microphone on during all of these particular segments because I had to do the video completely over again. But nonetheless, I want to thank all of you for your continued participation here on the channel. Of course, you can click that like button. Absolutely, go ahead and do that right now, as it does help support the content and raise the SEO and activity for the channel. So I do appreciate your guys' help there. And of course, how could I not mention the obligatory channel icon appearing right there on the screen for you guys to subscribe, along with notifications. That way you guys will know when there is content here on the channel, so you guys will always be informed, in particular, of course, for the Friday vlogs. And I will see you guys right there behind the camera next week.